right, had to unmute it. All right, guys, appreciate y'all joining us today. Obviously, great to be here in Dallas for the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl and all the events that come with it. Obviously, the city and all the people involved with the bowl have been gracious hosts, and we're really excited to be down here. Got here yesterday afternoon and went straight to an event, which our young men enjoyed, and then had some meetings, and we're rolling. Woke up this morning and had a good practice out at SMU. We're appreciate them being such great hosts as well and letting us use their facilities. But, dialed in, ready to roll. This is like a Wednesday practice for us in the bowl. We'll have some events for us this evening, but everything's going well and smoothly, obviously, with all eyes ahead towards game day.
Evan and then Frank.
Hey, Ryan, kind of speaking about that, just kind of first, I see the headgear. How are you guys managing the cold weather? Because obviously it's freezing over here. So how are you guys managing the temperatures and being out there getting used to that?
Yeah, I apologize for literally sprinting right off the practice field so I can make sure I jumped on here with you guys. It's not as bad today. Obviously, we know throughout the country yesterday it was very unusual, and it's cooler here than normal temps, but we need to get outside, right? With the game being outside, we don't know. It looks like it's going to warm up a little bit over the next few days here, but I wanted to make sure we got an outside practice. Yesterday morning, we actually practiced indoors at Memphis. Thank goodness for that indoor practice facility. I think the players would have killed me being out there in the 1 degree temperature days and the wind chill, what it was yesterday morning before we left. But we got adapted. It was actually a beautiful sunny morning here in Dallas. And so it's good to get outside and run around a little bit.
It's different too, because you guys obviously had a different Dallas Bowl experience 3 years ago. So for you guys going out yesterday to the bowling event and everything, was it kind of nice just to kind of, not just practice, but also kind of get used to being in the city more than maybe when you guys were there, I guess, a couple of weeks ago at SMU, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, normal game week, right? You show up, you go to the hotel, you eat, you meet, and then you meet some more, and then you go play a game, and then you're out. For this, we're so fortunate. This bowl's done a great job of having events set up for us, and the beautiful hotel, the Westin we're staying in. We're just so fortunate, and so it's been good. Our guys have been able to see a little bit of it. Obviously, they have a curfew, and we make sure they're getting in a decent hour and not seeing too much of Dallas. But yeah, it's been good, and the bowl's been fantastic with putting on some wonderful events for us as well.
Thanks, Ryan.
Ryan, this is a team that you obviously don't play every day, but having that extra time to prepare, do you feel like you know this team pretty well at this point?
Well, you do, right? And it's like anything, but they've also had extra time to prepare. So that means we're going to see some unusual stuff. It's amazing what teams can do within a 7-day, period or 6-day period of prep, when you go against them. And I've told you guys often, like, they lined up in a completely different offense, or they hadn't shown that ever on defense. And we try to do as much film preparation as we can for our opponents. And obviously with Utah State and what they've been able to show on film, right, we feel like we've got a decent understanding, but that's a lot of downtime for them to prepare for us. So we're going to see some unusual stuff. I'm sure there'll be some different stuff. So the biggest thing is making sure that we can sustain whatever that is, right? And Frank, I don't know if it's the very first play we say something unusual by their defense, something special teams, or by their offense. We just got to be honed in and ready. And then if something does happen, right, we've seen these bowl games be able to ride that wave. And there's ups and downs of a game in normal college football, but and the bowl games, right? There's always something that's unusual that happens, and early in the game, if it does, and it happens to affect us in a negative light, we got to be able to be resilient and bounce back and go attack ourselves.
And then what do you see now of the running back? I know that he's a big part of their offense. What have you seen about him on field?
Consistency. I mean, that's one of the things I think we always talk, even our own run game, like, what do we need to improve upon? It's just consistency. He does a fantastic job. Their offensive line gets holes. They've got a great play calling scheme. I think part of what helps them also is that tempo, right? They line up, and sometimes defenses get winded. That running back, he's going to have patience and great vision. He may bounce an inside zone play out, and next thing you know, he's down the sideline for 40+ yards. So he's got great vision and consistency with what he's supposed to do, and patience in his run game. So we've got to be smart. What concerns me sometimes in these games like this is it has been so long since we last played a game, and with their running back, right, are we going to be able to tackle like we're capable of doing? And because you're only going to get so many live tackling reps in practice, right? With each individual, you can tackle like a tackling double as many times as you want, but then when all of a sudden you're playing a prolific running back, and it's been a while since you tackled, how's that going to affect us as well?
Appreciate you.
Back to Evan.
Ryan, since we last spoke, you guys added the quarterback that just signed. What can you tell us about him? And second, does this mean that you guys are still going to be in the market, maybe looking for maybe to add another quarterback, whether it be the portal or something else?
Yeah, he's a local high school talent, if you will, right? We've seemed to have done well with quarterbacks from this area, right? Like Seth himself. And, Coach Cramsey, to his credit, has done a nice job of keeping tabs on quarterbacks really for the last, since he's been here, so almost 12 months. And he was a name that we had on our list for a long time and excited to add him to the fold. I do think you have to find that fine balance. You don't want to have just a bunch of senior laden quarterbacks. Obviously, we've got high expectations for Tevin Carter as well. And then, I think you do need to have 4 scholarship quarterbacks, right? And if you look at our room, right now we have 3 with the addition of the young man that will probably be joining us in June 1st. So we're always going to explore. And I don't know if we necessarily need to rush. I think what happens is, people say, well, you signed a guy after signing day. Does that mean you really didn't want him? No, I think it's sometimes you got to sit back and say, okay, let the dust settle and see what's available, see what you need to do. Last thing you want to do is ever make a personnel decision based off a rush judgment. And so we'll continue, I think, like with every position, right? Okay, let's continue to explore and see what's out there. As after the bowl game unfolds, I'm already telling you guys, right? There's going to be guys that probably go in the portal. That's the nature of it. We see some of these young men throughout college football are actually announcing, hey, after the bowl game, I'm going to find myself another home to go and put that out there. To prepare our coaches. But there's obviously the expectations that we'll lose some guys, and we got to see, does it make sense for us to add somebody else from the portal, whether it's a quarterback position or wherever the heck it may come from.
You said 3 scholarship quarterbacks. Does that mean that Hunter has been placed on scholarship?
No, I'm saying when we bring in the high school guys. So when I look at roster, yes, sir. Yeah. So in going into spring, we currently have 2 on scholarship. Okay. Yep.
I was trying to make sure my math wasn't wrong on that. Okay.
Oh, you're good. Absolutely. Yep. That's I've got a roster. I literally actually, before we left, I printed off a 2023 spring roster and then an overall roster scholarship management. And so that's part of it, right? Okay. Where are the numbers right now? And then obviously, where does it sit going in the spring? And then where does it sit? Obviously the expectations for, if you will, August, but that we know that's going to be ever changing. So if that piece of paper will probably change 100 times over.
Gotcha. And you said that Boyd is going to probably enroll after the spring. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yep. He's going to finish up. He's not an early high school graduate. You love those that are. We've got a handful that are. Off the top of my head, I don't want to name who they are, but I know we have at least 5 high schools guys that are early graduates.
For sure. And then last thing for me, as far as the game, obviously, this Utah State team's been on a roll the last 7 games. They've won 5 of the last 7. How do you guys? Obviously, we're not playing in a month, but how do you guys measure that? Do you measure it as this team is rolling, or they have the same break that you guys had and it kind of starts over again?
Yeah, it's a combination. I mean, you look at what they did their first 4 games, they'd probably take back all but 1. But they're a team that, with this quarterback and what they've been able to do, they are in a roll and what they're capable of. And that kind of gives you saying, okay, this is a really good team. And I always go back, right? What do they put on tape, 2 years removed from the conference championship? So a lot of those players played in that game. And now you know what they're capable of. Obviously, the weather's not going to be a factor to them. This will be like a spring day out there for them on game day. So we've just got to be prepared. Obviously, they've had the same break. And I'm sure, Coach Anderson's dealing with the same deal about focus and making sure the guys are dialed into what the task at hand, and that's the actual game itself.
Thanks, Ryan.
Frank,
you mentioned that after the bowl game, there may be some more guys in the portal or whatever, but to have a limited amount of guys enter the portal before the bowl game, how much does that make your job? How easy does that make your job just preparing for the game, knowing you still got your guys?
Yeah, that's a big thing. I think that is important. I know Utah State's been the same. I had a chance to talk with Coach Anderson last night, and he was just talking about how he has not lost really anybody of significance to the portal. And I think that speaks to the culture of the programs. And I think if all of a sudden you're losing, if I had lost 20 guys right after the SMU game, guys of major note, you guys say, man, they really don't want to play for this guy. But I think, and we're still going to lose some guys. Look, let's not call it what it is. It's also scholarship and roster management. If every team stopped right now where they're at, I think every team would be over the scholarship limit and CAA penalty, right? But you don't have to get down until you actually start training camp. So, but it speaks highly to the guys in the locker room and what this program means to them, and I give them a lot of credit.
Go ahead, Matt. Hey, Ryan, how's it going? Kind of, I don't know if this is a silly question or not, but I know you guys are creatures of habit. How different is playing a Tuesday afternoon game? I know you're used to it in a bowl game, but some of these guys are not. How different is that?
Yeah, so what happens is we actually schedule everything. If you were to pay me money to tell me, for me to guess what day of the week it actually is, I'd have no idea. It is Wednesday in my brain. I have no different. I don't know if it actually is a Wednesday. I don't know, and I don't really care. So now that you told me the game's actually on a Tuesday, great. So I can do the math and realize what today is during the week. But I've got a great understanding today in my brain is a Tuesday, right? Excuse me, a Wednesday. You got me already screwed up, Matt. Yesterday was a Tuesday practice. Today is a Wednesday practice. Tomorrow's going to be a Thursday walkthrough. And then as we go through. So in our brain, I think it's just, that's kind of how we scheduled everything too. Is so our guys have a good feel. In fact, as I was leaving the practice, I said, guys, it's a Wednesday. So however you normally take care of your body with treatment, doing those things, film study, it's got to look the exact same.
All right, last one. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Coach, when you take a look at Utah State's passing defense, I think they rank top 25 or 26. When you look at the film, what makes them so good in that department?
Yeah, Brian, I think when people asked me to compare on the radio last week, and I said, I'm not calling them Tulane's defense, but they're just really sound. They're so fundamentally sound. They do a great thing of just being able to play with the ball top down. They don't give up a lot of the explosive plays. They're really talented back there. They do a lot of man coverage, and they feel like they can play guys man to man, which is they do a phenomenal job at. So it's not one of those you sit there and say, well, this guy can do this guy can do that. I think they're collectively one of the best defenses we faced all year as a total group, and they're just consistent. They're sound. They don't beat themselves. And so with that being said, I think that's what puts them as a top 25.